can't see out of these glasses. Are we live? Hello, Savannah. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Candidly Kesha on this Monday evening. This is a late special edition of Candidly Kesha, and I have joining me Mayor Pro-Tem of Port Wentworth, Mr. Thomas Barbee. Thank you so much for joining us. We are titling our show tonight, Who Rules? Robert rules, y'all. Robert rules. And so as I dial through a handful of items and updates from our last council meeting, I just wanted to take this opportunity to use my platform to respond to some of the reports that everybody seems to want to know about, which nobody wanted to know about until it was reported. Shame on you, WSAV. Nonetheless, we are going to keep it honest and bring it to you straight from all things relevant, the only way we know how. And I asked Mayor Pro Tem Barbee to come by tonight so that he can give us examples and just sort of verify what is it that actually is supposed to happen after somebody calls point of order when a sitting council person has the floor. So right or wrong, good, bad, or indifferent, there are certain policies and practices, and with regard to our council, we are governed by Robert's rules, which we voted on and agreed to as we entered office. So moving forward, we will see and hear an account, an exchange of sorts that took place during our council meeting as I was raising questions to our city manager as it related to item number, and you can follow along with us. You can go to our City of Savannah webpage, go to the clerks tab and click on meetings and agenda. And when you click on council meeting, not workshop, but council meeting, you will see an agenda there. There is also an audio and visual recording of our meetings on the City of Savannah website in our archives section. And so there was an item on the agenda for the purchase of a Ford SUV for the city manager. And I raised a question to that item primarily because I knew that our city manager drove his own vehicle and receives a car stipend along with his $250,000 or so salary, as well as benefits and an expense account, right? And so we have heard in the wind some maneuvering and some changes that's taken place with the city manager's office, and he has discretion where personnel is concerned. But as a representative of the city of Savannah, I am responsible for making sure and assuring that our tax dollars are prioritized as well as being allocated in a way in which is responsible. And so item number 24 was a request to authorize the city manager to execute a contract for the purchase of a 2022 Ford Explorer with Wade Ford Incorporated in the amount of $39,000, $39,588. And producer, I'm going to ask you to show this clip in a second. The video of the exchange that took place on council as I set out to ask the city manager what the vehicle would be utilized for. And so here it says this vehicle will be utilized by the office of the city manager, which I later learned is essentially a vehicle that his assistant that he is hiring will be driving him around from place to place. And so what I wasn't able to get at, ladies and gentlemen, as a sitting council person, I'm really only concerned with two things, and that is our behavior, are our actions a part of practice, or is it policy? A lot of things we do within this administration is just practice. It's no policy. There are no rules. People just do what they want to do. And I'm seeing, and I have learned that this practice is what's causing us a lot of wasteful spending, and that we are spending money we do not have on things we do not need. And when I am petitioning for individuals in the community with regard to requests and emergencies, like with our LBGTQ Center, they had a period of time where they were without a director, and within that time period, they missed the grant cycle. And so I was advocating for resources for the center that they so desperately need. In addition, I recently asked for porta-johns to be placed in the park, Bowes Ford Park, for our PALS team. The little boys are having to use the bathroom in the woods. And when these requests, nominal in comparison to what we are spending bi-weekly in the city of Savannah, when these requests, among some others I've made, are not met with a favorable response, but then I come to the meeting and I see a request for a vehicle that we don't need, that wasn't budgeted for, and it's a part of a practice that the current mayor, the first mayor in the city of Savannah, to have a personal driver, a sworn police officer who serves as his personal driver, an individual who also opens his door, fetches his breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and answers the phone in the office. And so I'm thinking we have to cut out these behaviors. This same mayor is breaking policy because the policy says if you are a recipient of a car stipend, the city of Savannah gives the city manager and the mayor a car stipend. If you receive the car stipend, you do not use the city issued vehicle. But if you utilize a city issued vehicle, you forego the stipend. But in the case of Van Johnson, he has a car, a personal car. He gets a car stipend for utilizing his personal car. He also has use of a city issued vehicle in addition to a personal driver. And so the only thing I was trying to do was to lay out and demonstrate that the practice that we currently are employing is not right, it's not consistent with being responsible in utilizing taxpayer dollars. And I was unable to do that because I was interrupted. Mr. Producer, can you show the video, please?
In our top story tonight, an argument between Mayor Van Johnson and City Alderwoman Kesha Gibson Carter during City Council is gaining some attention and raising more questions about the Alderwoman's future on council. WSAV News 3's Chase Justice joins us now with more.
It all started at Thursday's City Council meeting during a discussion about the approval of nearly $40,000 towards a vehicle for the office of City Manager Jay Melder. That's when Post 1 at-large Alderwoman Kesha Gibson Carter spoke out about the purchase before the meeting went off the rails. Here's how some of that conversation went.
Melder.
Yes, ma'am.
Will this vehicle, will your car stipend go away as a result of this vehicle?
No, ma'am. This is not a personal vehicle. This is a vehicle for the office, and the reason this is Explorer is also be used as an emergency management vehicle as well. If we ever have an emergency management issue that needs my attention.
So this will be much like a setup like the mayor has. He has a car and a driver and a car stipend, and all of this on the back of the tank.
Point of order. And this is well within order and absolutely inappropriate. Well, it's not relevant.
Point of order, so what's your point?
It's not relevant. The point is well taken.
You can't do anything about me. I'm sorry.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
2 times.
Opposed.
Mr. Mayor.
Opposed. Motion
City
passes.
Attorney, do you want to weigh in on this and not tell them what they want to hear?
The point is, I've ruled, Mr. Attorney, the point is that this is inappropriate, it's not relevant.
Mr. Mayor?
And again,
Asking for the clerk that we pay
I run this meeting.
No, you do not.
I run
No,
it.
you do not.
We reached out to Mayor Johnson for comment regarding the situation. He said Alderwoman Gibson Carter approached him twice after the City Council meeting. He thanks the rest of council for acting respectfully, but says what happened during Thursday's meeting was not a singular occurrence. District 6 Alderman Curtis Pertee said he actually had to get in between the two to de-escalate the disagreement following the council meeting. Here's what he had to say about the situation.
It's a pattern of behavior that's still continuing. It's not stopping. My concern is that it's going to become so disruptive that we will not be able to accomplish city business. It's already a hostile work environment for city staff that are in the council chambers when all this is happening. It's also a hostile work environment for other city council members that are up there.
Now, we reached out to Alderwoman Kesha Gibson Carter for comment and have yet to hear back. Back in January, council voted to remove Gibson Carter from her position as chair of council. After that vote, she announced that she would run for mayor, saying she will be true to the point she's made on council and advocate for the citizens of Savannah. Chase Justice, WSAV News 3, on your side.
Okay, so then I get calls from friends and family members and supporters saying, what is this report about what happened at City Council? So I finally tune in, and the first words out of the anchor's mouth is cringeworthy at best. In that they start with the whole sensationalism and the shock and awe of questions are being raised about the Alderwoman's future on council. How is any of this reflective of my future on council when they themselves know that no one can get me out of office except for the voters who put me in office? But it's a continuation of the shock and awe and the deliberate, choreographed, orchestrated attempts of the media who's owned by the establishment and who listen to these carriers of bad information and deliberately spew these messages into the airways. And so, I know that the talking heads have jobs to protect. They have bills to pay. I can't pay their mortgage, put food on their table, and clothe their children. So I do not expect for them to break rules on my behalf or not do what they're told. But when you're told to do something that you know is wrong, and you're reading something you know is wrong, at what juncture do you, as journalists, as anchors from this community who have pretty much not much to lose with your time and tenure, at what point don't you challenge the status quo? Don't you challenge the system. And you tell this young reporter, Mr. Chase, did you talk to Alderwoman Carter? Because if you didn't, I have her phone number. Because my account from the reporter and from Mr. Brennan, Kevin Brennan, the news director, when I called and said, how is it that you all give this full report of happenings on council and you totally leave out one of the subjects? And his reply was, their coverage on Friday, they had a reporter reach out to me and the reporter called me. So I looked, I'm like, okay, I didn't get a call. No one contacted me. I look at my city phone. The reporter, the guy in the piece, called me minutes before 5 on Friday on my city phone. And the person, he said, reached out to me via email. I have a picture of her inbox to me on Messenger on Facebook. I don't know how many of you follow your Messenger on Facebook, but I hardly read it. So please don't. At 6:20, and as much as I know that report was at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, they reached out to me at 6:20 after the newscast. Alderwoman, I hope you're doing well. I'm a producer for WSAV. One of our reporters has been trying to touch base with you today regarding last night's city council meeting. Really? You called me after your news story? And so I basically called Mr. Brennan and I first called Chase and I just said to him, we had, Mr. Barbee, we had 47 items on the agenda, on the council agenda. I said, Chase, of all of the items we had on the agenda, to include a contractual amendment request for Broughton Street beautification for nearly $1 million. These people are coming back wanting more money for that project that's not budgeted for. Or for the nearly over $500,000 that we're loaning to this housing development group, and we still don't have affordable housing. How about Mr. Chase acknowledging or recognizing that of all of these items, with us reaching an all-time high, we have a bloody May. We've had a bloody 2022. We have a police department who's in turmoil and personnel issues running rampant. What wasn't it about any of those issues that you saw more pressing to report to the public? And, sir, if you did need the shock and the awe or the sensationalism with this particular item, why was more of the focus on the perceived argument versus the actual item? The item. So you totally missed the mark on the fact that I simply was informing the public. Why aren't you, Mr. Chase? Why aren't you, Kevin Brennan? Why aren't you concerned with the fact that we give the city manager over $200,000 in salary, plus benefits, an expense package, and a car stipend? Why wasn't it of your thought that I was raising this issue? You know, notwithstanding that this is a consistent theme that the media, all outlets, continue to gloss over. They have reporters sitting in that chamber with the cameras almost always directly on me, and hardly ever are they drilling down into the meat and potatoes of these agendas, because they know that the public is not going to see it or hear about it or know about it unless they report about it. And because it's in their best interest not to report on these things so that we continue with status quo government and business as usual politics, they major in those minor things. And so here, they also go on to say that this issue was gaining attention. Well, it didn't gain any attention until you reported on it. Nobody else reported on it but you, WSAV. Who was it gaining attention by? And you speak to Curtis Purdy, who says that he had to get in between me and the mayor. And the mayor said I confronted him twice. Well, where was it recorded that Curtis Purdy? Did you see it, Mr. Reporter? Chase, did you see on a video him getting in between us? No, you didn't, because it didn't happen. But you just take the word of an individual who can utilize and abuse your airways, who has a consistent pattern of crime foul, but they never, Barbee, they never ever, in this whole account, he went on, Mr. Producer, can you put up the graphics of the dictation? He goes on to put up the dictation verbatim, supposedly verbatim, of what was said after the point of order was called. So what I want to demonstrate here is you hear.
I don't see it.
I think he's probably trying to find it. He hasn't put it up yet. But what I want to demonstrate, Mr. Barbee, is the fact that the news, the reporters, they air what they want to air after they cut and splice it and add the shock and awe. But when you match it with what actually was said at the meeting, it's polar opposite. And so I went on, and I don't have time to do this. I really don't. But this is just, it was just very unnerving because this station has a tendency to just keep digging. Go ahead, Mr. Barbee.
Oh, yeah. I have a few comments. First of all, for your audience, this is my first time being on your show. So I will toot my own horn. Just happy to be alive today. God bless my eyes to open and 10 toes hit the floor. And I'm in action. I'm also a real man for change. And Kesha, if you don't listen to anything I say, listen to this. All the news outlets, all of them, not some, not one, not two, but all of them are against you. And they're going to always report anything that even smells like or even look like something that you did wrong, because you are a threat to the status quo. Same thing that happened to me for many, many years when I got involved in politics, because I'm from Indiana. News reporters in Indiana, they get both sides of every story and then they write their news article. I came down here to the South, that's why they call it the dirty South when it comes to politics. They write these one-sided stories from some buffoon because they don't like you, and they write the story, and it sells newspapers. But ain't none of it's true, because if they would get both sides of the story, you find out they ain't really got no story. I spent 21 years in the United States Air Force as a police officer. 21 years, zero paperwork. Not one situation went bad or was bad. Not one. But time I jumped into politics, every news outlet started writing foolishness about me. Oh, it was harassment. Oh, he's a hostile work environment. It's always something stupid. It ain't got nothing to do with anything. But long story short, I used to spend a lot of my time collecting those articles. And I got to a point where I realized that those people are going to do what they do. What I have to do is keep being an advocate for the people. Just like you are doing, keep being an advocate for the people, because the people see through the foolishness. They know that the only reason that they even report this thing about you at the council because they want to make you look bad, because they know that you are going to be the next mayor of Savannah and you are going to change things. Because see, when you change things, you take money out of these status quo people's pockets because you're about change. And keep standing for change, and keep standing and being a good steward over taxpayers' money, and keep asking questions, because those questions are what you're supposed to be asking. and keep asking those questions. And I want to say one thing about that point of order. I listened to the video twice now. And whenever there's a point of order, when somebody interrupts you when you're talking, the point of order is only to be used when you have broken some type of rule, when you have broken something along what you're talking about. But there was no reason given. So when you say point of order, the chair should have said, okay, what's the point of order? But I didn't hear the video. He didn't say what's
Mr.
the point of
Barbee,
order.
So, and in this instance, I believe it was like 5 of them called point of order almost in unison.
I believe they just trying to make you look bad. That's all.
And so I understand now, and over time, I started recognizing that they are doing this to interrupt me or to disrupt my train of thought as I'm speaking. Exactly. And so, you know, as to not follow suit or do what they do, I just let it ride. But this particular time, I just said, you know, no, you cannot keep abusing this part of Robert's rule to interrupt me without giving me reason. So I simply asked the mayor, which I was in full right to do, what is the point? He called point of order, you called it, they called it, everybody called it. Just give each one of you, tell me what was wrong with
rule
my
was broken. Exactly.
Right.
And then the chair's supposed to rule on that. Either
right.
yay
So
or nay,
good, bad,
or you still
and
have the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
Good, bad, indifferent. I have the floor. They said I violated a rule. If the clerk or the city attorney would have concurred with them, I would have fallen back, right? But the clerk and the city attorney did not rule on it because the mayor stated that he runs this and that they didn't need to speak. And so you cannot say that we as a council voted to follow Robert's rules, and then you decide today in this moment with this particular issue, because it involves something that doesn't paint a good light on you, that you don't want to follow the rule. And that's essentially what I was getting at. But I recognize the tricks and the games, because later, Mr. Barbee, in one full swoop, they went on, while that argument was going on, they went on to approve other items on the agenda that was also going to be challenged and questioned. So we had a letter from the Canal Society, who were challenging 2 agenda items that they were concerned about, in that it provided for adverse implications to their interests. And I was in position not to vote on it, as was Alderwoman Blakely. But because if you go to my page, and what I want you all to do who are listening, and we do this, Mayor Pro-Tem Barbee, not to get people to sympathize or to take a side, but I really and truly am determined to get people to see how responsible the media is when it comes to how engaged we are, how informed we are, how knowledgeable we become, how disengaged we are, how uninformed we are, and how we are not knowledgeable when it comes to politics, because it really makes a difference. And then I also get to see how, had this not been happening to me, I would not understand the fullness and the brevity of what media has done to Black men and the picture they continue to paint. And the reason why every other person is afraid of a Black man walking is because of the media. You know, there is a disproportionate number of African-American men and boys who have their faces plastered on the news, and accounts that cover crime that they are involved in, or sometimes not involved in, and they just get wrongfully accused, than others. And it's unfair, it's not balanced. And maybe this had to happen to me to give voice to it. Because as you stated earlier, Mayor Pro-Tem Barbee, as a decorated, retired veteran with a stellar record of performance without blemish, you come into politics and all of a sudden you become this unhinged, deranged, crazy man, right? And
yeah,
so
that's how they try to paint me. But
I
I'm all for
get it.
change. I'm not
And
about the status quo. And anybody that knows me, that if you ain't talking about change, we definitely ain't talking about status quo. And sometimes the status quo got to go. They can pack their bags and go do something else, like that city attorney we used to have, which was, I was so glad he quit. If not, I was gonna fire him anyway.
I get that. I totally get it. I understand it. I don't like it. But what we want to do is continue to keep these people honest. And so in doing that, I want you all to go to my page, pull up the news account that I have. I went and I screenshotted the video from the city council meeting myself, and I posted it on my page. And when you compare the news account that's on WSAV, my apologies, WSAV's webpage and Facebook page, and you compare it with mine, and my battery's about to go low, I'm gonna have to log on to something else. When you compare it to theirs, it's totally different. And the verbatim dictated account that Mr. Chase gives, he leaves out all of the pieces related to how Curtis Purdy insulted me and told me that he had a problem with my person. He leaves out the laughing and the clicking of the paper while I'm talking, and they only highlight deliberately. They deliberately nitpick pieces, and it's so glaring. And I said to him, I said, you can continue to do this, but I'm going to continue to call you out. And so until
Something went wrong. Oh, okay. Kesha, don't give up. Don't give in, and don't give out. Yes. Keep standing for change. Keep standing for people. Keep standing up. Keep asking questions, being informed and engaged, because Mayor Johnson and all them other people that support Mayor Johnson know that you are a threat. They know that you are about change, and they know that you are coming, and they won't be able to beat you. Well, I'm gonna be in the corner, and we're gonna be knocking on doors and putting up signs. Let them do what they do. We gonna do what we do.
Well, listen, I really appreciate that, and I truly believe that I will be the 68th mayor of the city of Savannah, but it will not be on the back of moments like this. I want to truly focus on the pressing issues facing our community. We have young people dying on the streets of Savannah like flies. We have bullets flying in the air space of Savannah without regard of who that bullet takes out. We have forced displacement from our vulnerable communities as well as some of our most cherished communities. What we are facing here in Savannah is our elements and dynamics that, if not addressed and if not dealt with honestly and openly, in the next 2 to 5 years, Savannah as we know her will be a person of the past. On this same agenda, Mr. Barbee, we approved the development for 163 housing units. This is ahead of our impact fee ordinance that we are supposed to be having conversation about, but we've been having that conversation. This is a delayed conversation for over 2 years. For 2 years, I have been trying to get this council to pay attention to recognizing that because of the growth and development in our communities and the ability for developers to build in existing communities, we were putting existing residents, in a position where their communities will be adversely affected by increased traffic, as well as the little or lack of police, fire service, recreation service, and support for developing, repairing, and creating new infrastructure in their areas. But in one full sweep, we agreed to approve 163 single-family homes for areas of Godly West, the Gateway area, Bradley Point. It just goes on and on and on in the area of New Hampstead. And what people don't really understand or get, they see this development and growth happening around them. And it isn't until 2 to 3 to 5 years later, they start to feel the crunch of that new development when there's increased traffic and their commute now goes from 10 to 15 minutes to now 30 to 45 minutes. Or how this past weekend and I would say in this past month, I've had to call 911 twice for other people. And in making those 911 calls recently, the phone rung 31 times. I called 911 and the phone rung 31 times before someone answered. The time before when I called 911, and I know the non-emergency line. I know to call 911 non-emergency when it's not an emergency, but these were real emergencies. Mm-hmm. And when I called the time before, I had to hang up to make another call because nobody answered, and I was filled with anxiety trying to get this person help. And the 911 operator actually called me back. And so it's the totality of a whole lot of little things that will serve as an avalanche for this community if we don't get a handle on it. Politicians are running around, one-upping each other, jockeying for greater position, climbing the political career ladder, and giving very little regard to the people of whose backs they are standing on and the people who they ask to vote. And so I wanted to make mention of this letter, if you will give me a chance, Mr. Barbee. I don't know if the producer has those clips that I wanted him to put up, but
I wanted to jump in and say something about those impact fees. Those impact fees are a good idea for the actual city to adapt, because what it will do is it will create another revenue stream that could help pay police officers more for more equipment of police officers, or more 911 dispatchers. Those impact fees, because when a builder comes into your city, yes, they are investing some money into your city, but also the city council should ensure that some of the money that they are investing goes straight to improvement, quality of life for its citizens. And impact fees will actually add to that. And it sounds like there needs to be a study done to see where some of the vulnerable communities are, so you guys can start concentrating on those communities, because I'm pretty sure that they know where the highest rate of crime is and what they are not doing or what they should be doing. It seems like just not getting done.
It's not, and it's so sad because it doesn't have to be this way. And when I tell you there's enough to go around, there's enough in the house for everybody. Savannah is not skipping a beat, or missing a beat, I should say, when it comes to the resources we have. Now, as I stated at the top of the show, we are very good at spending money we don't have on things we don't need. But with that stated, I continuously say Savannah generates the most money for Georgia, only second to Atlanta. We are essentially a tourism mecca of the Southeast region. We boast of having one of the largest and most productive ports in the nation. And with all of that wealth and all of that resource, our communities are still creeping up on 3 times the national average of poverty. Mr. Barbee, consider this. Of those averages where poverty is concerned, predominantly in Savannah, it's in the 1st and the 5th district. Mm-hmm. Sitting on our council right now, the longest serving individuals represented the 1st and the 5th district. The mayor represented the 1st, and Estella Shabazz represents the 5th. They are the 2 longest sitting serving elected officials. Ask yourself the question, with time, it shouldn't only come tenure. With time, it should become talent should follow that time. Resources should follow that time. Definitely. So as opposed to this mayor utilizing his platform, his prowess, his professionalism, and all of his abilities in maneuvering on this council, why aren't you using this for the greater good of the citizens of Savannah? And so we want to get back to the Savannah Ogeechee Canal Trail. And Mr. Keating, well, this is a letter from Connie Shreve, the treasurer, to Mr. Keating of the city of Savannah. And she says that the Savannah Ogeechee Canal Society did not know the city of Savannah meeting was on that particular Thursday, with 2 agenda items involving the trail along the city's right-of-way. Respectfully, we feel that you did not involve the Canal Society in these 2 agenda items. We contacted Eric and another staff member from your office and explained that unless someone came physically to the property, your office would not understand the details involving these 2 items. Mr. Monroe's illegal access across the City of Savannah Road, City of Savannah ROW, was not there for years and years. As we understand, Mr. Monroe sold his access to this property and for 6 years now has been using the west side of the canal to access his property, although the other road had been put there without a permit. So these individuals presented to council a very, very valid point. I wanted to give consideration to this and not vote on it. But with the maneuvering that ensued after the point of order, while we are still trying to have a discussion, or I'm still trying to make my point known, the mayor, along with other members of the council, go on and approve it in full sweep. This item, as well as a couple others. And so
Kesha, so you guys clumped 2 and 3 different things together that you voted on?
Yes, no, it wasn't only that. It was these 2 items along with items for the Savannah Airport Commission. There were some items under the resolution section for approval for the city manager, which also included a questionable item here that I wanted to tell you about. And here, Mr. Barbee, is where it gets really, really interesting. And that was they wanted to do some amendment with our budget that had already been approved. Where is it?
So out of those items that you just mentioned, you had no time to give an input on it?
No, but when you go back and
that's not proper.
Right. And so the one of those items, Mr. Barbee, listen to this and tell me what this sounds like. Authorize supplemental budget appropriations to the fiscal year 2022 operating and capital improvements program. So they were amending our operating budget and the capital budget. So if you just approve this without an opportunity for discussion, or a person like me would use this as an opportunity to explain to the public what this really means. And you know what kind of maneuvering that can come into play when you're talking about amending your operating budget, right?
Exactly. It's called corruption. Yeah, it's called corruption.
So I say all that to say, guys, we're here to serve. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to tell everybody about, Mr. Barbee, and this is a conversation I can have with you offline at another time, but the city of Savannah is being sued for that car accident that took place. It was a hit and run report taken by the Savannah Police Department, but it involved a high-speed chase. And
is it public information you're speaking of?
It is.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the individual who was hit died. And so the city of Savannah is being sued and the asking of damages total over $20 million. And so it's again, it's something that the public should know about. These high-speed chases is something that I have questioned. It's recorded and on the books for a long time. We hate when anything rises to the level of when officers have to engage in a chase, but giving consideration to why you ensue an individual and where you pursue that individual, we definitely want to make sure that we are incorporating policies and practices that are keeping our citizens safe, as well as our police officers safe. But this speaks more to the point of why we should be going into executive session, because now that we are being sued, one of the questions I would have is, who was the police officer driving the vehicle? How long had they been on the force? What it's just it's so much.
You guys didn't have an executive session?
No, that the city attorney decided that this council should not go into executive session. Yes.
Yeah, but the city attorney does. Is that in you guys' charter? He doesn't have the power. Only the council.
He doesn't have the power. He doesn't have the power, but via this mayor, he has the privilege. And as I asked in that news account, I said to him, Attorney Bates, are you going to weigh in on this, or are you going to tell them what you always do? And that's what they want to hear. And so after the meeting, a part of the news account that's prefaced there is where Purdy had to get between the mayor and I. And again, no one ever got between me and the mayor. It just simply did not happen. And I think
I don't think it would be Purdy anyway. He don't seem like a guy that could fight too good.
So what had happened was what happened, Mayor Pro-Tem Barbee, after the meeting, I was so frustrated. I said to the city attorney, you all have to stand up and do your jobs, regardless of the allegiance and the alliance you have formed with this mayor. You have to do your job. And so I said to the clerk, because I was having a conversation with the clerk, because I wanted to know, I'm always in position for a teachable moment. If I was wrong, please tell me. And so I said to the clerk, I asked him, Mr. Massey, did I have the floor? He said, yes. Mr. Massey, when someone calls point of order, was I right in asking for their point to be made? He said, yes. I said, Mr. Massey, why didn't you say that when I asked you to weigh in on it? He said, I don't run the meeting. I know you don't run the meeting, sir, but you have a job to do. But you all were talking. Yes, that was deliberate. That was their deliberate strategy. And I really do. I think we have one of the best clerks in the nation. But the behavior and the manipulation and the power and control that this mayor exerts over these people and this staff, I find it incredulous. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Who does the hiring and firing of city employees?
The city manager. So
your city manager is the chief executive officer of your city. That's your charter.
We are a council manager form of government. The city manager is the chief executive officer of the day-to-day operations of the city of Savannah. But that's not how we function. We function as a strong merit system.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and so we get it. And so going back to what was prefaced in the news story, as I was talking to the clerk, the mayor interrupted once again. And this was post-meeting. We were not engaged in a formal meeting. So I just went over to him and I asked him to stop it. I said to him, you cannot control everything. You have to stop this. Stop running this city into the ground. And so as we had our verbal exchange, we simply ended it. And, it's this is really sad. It's
Was
really
the news
sad.
media there?
I'm not sure where they were, but
So somebody went and told them, y'all got a snitch in the camp.
Well, no, it's that the media listen to the lies. They just are more inclined to
Oh, trust me, the media is good at spreading lies. They are expert at it.
Well, and we want people to know that Family Promise has an additional $93,000. Once again, this director, who is a supporter of the mayor, seems to be one of the favorite picks of the nonprofits. But and that's an organization that's near and dear to my heart, and that I ran it for 10 years. And so certainly we want them to do well, but we also want it to be fair, balanced, and equitable. I don't care who you are. $93,970. $93,970 additional dollars that Family Promise has. That number is 790-9446, 790-9446 if you need assistance with housing assistance or utilities or shelter. And these are the things that we want our public to know about. I did not vote for the local design of the Gamble building for a renovation project to a development team, $625,000. And this is not for actual work. This essentially is a plan to address the much needed capital improvements for the Gamble building's renovation. So again, we are paying $625,000 for a plan. And I simply asked the question, who will be occupying the building? What departments will utilize the building? If we are investing $625,000 in the plan for the building, you can imagine that the project in its scope will be millions of dollars. And so I want to make sure that all of those dollars will benefit the taxpayers. Will offices be here that our taxpayer citizens could use? Or will these be executive suites and offices for executive level staff? You know, people, I'm doing my job.
It's called exposing them.
It will, and to me, I don't know that my intent so much is to expose as it is to educate and inform. And one person who chimed in on my Facebook page said she doesn't have a problem with the expense. Well, if you don't, and you're a taxpayer, you don't have a problem with it, fine. But if others do, that's fine, and you all should be knowledgeable of it, right?
Exactly, informed and engaged.
Yeah.
I just got a quickie. Going back, you had mentioned about the mayor being the 1st district and Shabazz being of the 5th district. Has there been any positive change that they have done for their actual districts that's affecting the quality of life for the citizens there, as far as Black people are concerned?
Well, I can answer it in this way. Historically, the 1st district and the 5th district are two of the most vulnerable, underserved, high poverty, high crime areas and underrepresented in the city of Savannah. To date, that assessment holds true. And so I just leave it for the listeners to decide. Those two individuals who represented and represent that district are the most tenured sitting servants, sitting politicians of Savannah. And so, you know, one of the things that I've been saying for a long time in terms of what I can say that I've done, we've raised the bar where information and sharing is concerned. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of effort to prepare for the meetings and to be ready and to study.
Man, a lot of reading.
Because it's really easy for us to go into these meetings and they have a method, a mode of operandi, Mr. Barbee, where if everybody agrees, you can pass 5 and 10 items at one time without any discussion, and the public would never know anything about it. But because
it doesn't create transparency.
And so we pause and we'll ask to pull out certain items so that we can discuss them. and so that we can bring more transparency and shed light on these issues. So I don't know if there's any more you can add to this conversation, but when I was going through this, and as I went through the ethics hearing and the ethics complaint, you were a great sounding board for me. You know, I was not the issue facing me with that ethics complaint like you. When you hear ethics complaint, when you hear voted out as council chair, you only hear that. You don't hear what came before that. And what came before the ethics complaint, much like yours, quite possibly was an issue that you were fighting for or fighting against. And in my case, I was fighting against the mayor cheating the city manager search process. As you know, we've been in office just over 2 years, and we've already had 4 city managers. We're on our 4th city manager. That says a whole lot about the leadership within this administration. And so I go before a panel who are not my peers, 3 white men who are a part of the establishment. And these individuals find fault with me for speaking up in that situation. And so, Mr. Barbee, the process for our administration, once you go through an ethics hearing, in order for it to be realized, for the lack of a better word, your council has to vote to censure you, which essentially is a public rebuke or a public reprimand, right?
Exactly. It has to be finalized, and the council is the one that's finalized with a unanimous vote. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think that happened during your particular ethics quote violation.
It never happened, Mr. Barbee, but every single time WSAV and their reporters have a chance, they always report that I was censured. And it never
they
happened.
always want to throw a little mud on you. But you got God on your side. Ain't none of it sticking on your armor. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna share this with you too. When you become the next mayor of Savannah, one of the first things that you should do, they're gonna attack you a little bit when I say this to you, but you could take it. You're strong. First thing you should do is make sure you do a forensic audit, because I'm pretty sure that there's some money that's being channeled in the people's pockets that it ain't supposed to be in. A forensic audit when you become the next mayor of Savannah. And they're going to do their best to stop you. They're going to say all kinds of stuff. You're breathing too much air. You're drinking too much water. You're creating a hostile environment by asking those questions. You should just sit over there and keep your mouth shut. But keep standing up and keep speaking up and keep standing for the people and continue to be a good steward over taxpayers' money, because our citizens, and as elected officials, we should always try to improve their quality of life, because that's our job. We are sitting in these seats because the citizens elected us. They believe in us. Keep standing up, keep preaching, keep speaking, keep God in your forefront, and everything gonna be all right, because there's no weapon formed against you shall ever prosper.
Well, we received that, and I thank you so much for stopping by and sharing time. And it's one thing for people to say that they sympathize with you, and that's a sentiment of feeling sorry for somebody. But it's another thing to have someone empathize for you. And with empathy, we know you know, because you've been through it as well. And so,
definitely, I still got scars on my back.
Well, mine are not. My shoulders are not as broad as yours, and I don't stand as tall as you. But you give me such great encouragement, and I think I'm going to stick with this, and I'm going to stay with it and run on just a little bit longer.
Yes,
so
you'll be surprised the people that you are inspiring. Those little girls and those little boys, they are watching you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our guests tonight who have tuned in and stopped by to say hello. And thanks to my faithful followers, to all of you. My reading glasses are not working very well, and my big screen went out, so I can't see the comments there, but I will definitely go back on and take a look to see if we missed anything tonight. Once again, Mayor Pro Tem Barbee, we want to thank you for what you're doing on the other side of us there in Port Wentworth. You know, I was so encouraged with the way you all stood up and stuck together and are taking a stand for Port Wentworth. And we believe that that will become the next great city in Georgia. And kudos to you, sir. Kudos to you. I want to thank the owner and developer of ATR Platform for giving us an opportunity to give voice and bring attention to these issues facing our community and helping us frame a narrative that's not one-sided. So with that, I want to say to you all, go to my Facebook page, pull up that recording of the WSAB news story. And then I want you to look at what they reported, how they reported, and look at the dictation and see how strategic Mr. Chase was in leaving out the pieces related to the insults that were directed toward me. But less than me, I want you to go on and follow us every other week and pull these agendas down and look at how your money is being spent. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Barbee, I'm going to give you last words.
Last word. This is the last word I want to say to each and every person that's listening to the sound of my voice. If you have not early voted,
yes,
please go out and vote. You do not have to wait until the 24th of May to vote. You can vote on Saturday. You can vote on Sunday. You can vote in the evening. You can vote in the morning. Just get it done. And if you have already voted, ensure that you tell at least 3 people. Just inquire, have you voted already? And if they ain't, encourage them to go vote, because the only way that we change the system is we have to change them people that's writing those laws, those policies and procedures. And most of them don't look like us, and we got to replace them so we can change those laws, policies, and procedures. Go vote, my brothers and sisters.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem Barbee. We appreciate you. And again, we appreciate all who are tuned in. And we want to thank you for sticking with us and staying in there. Good night, Savannah, and I love you.
like this.